So you're looking for a tiny metal Game Boy or just a tiny Game Boy. You've come to the right place because today I'm going to explain to you why this could be one of the best options out there. We, as collective YouTubers, fancy the Miyoo Mini as probably the best mini micro retro handheld out there. This has a few tricks up its sleeve that make it a very good competitor to the Miyoo Mini with a few little extra things that could bother you. So here we go. All right, so competition. You have the Funky S, which is, in my opinion, this is micro, this is mini. Anyway, the Adin RG Nano, which is very, very small. I love this thing. It's one of my favorites. I love this. I prefer this over the Funky S. Sorry, Funky. I know you guys put a lot of love into this, but I do prefer the Adin. Funky S has got a lot going for it because it is a little. I tried to get my daughter into retro gaming with this, but she just didn't take. That's why it is pink. Then we have the Zaz Bitty, as our friend Tech Dweeb likes to say. I actually keep forgetting the name because the Zaz Bitty has actually stuck in my mind. And this is, I think, his favorite small horizontal handheld. I think this rivals the Miyoo Mini for him as his little pocketable daily little gaming device. This is a 2.8 inch screen. It has Adin's operating system on it, which recently has been pretty good. This is a lovely option because it's just a chuck in your pocket and go option. I have the A30 here, but I couldn't find it online. So if you can find it, there were some really good deals on the Miyoo A30. I just can't find it anymore. I think it was a commercial failure, so they stopped making it, I think. Not sure on that one. We have the old GKD Pixel, which also they just stopped selling the thing. It just disappeared. And this thing, the thing that this has over the GKD Pixel 2 is that MinUI runs in it. Now, MinUI, a great operating system by Sean Inman, I think it is, and it works on here. I know Retro Game Core did a whole add-ons thing, which was very popular. So this is lovely. It's a great competitor, but it is smaller. And I do feel the bigger, better screen on the Pixel 2 is worth the upgrade alone over the Pixel 1. So even though this has the Pixel 2 has a worse operating system, I still think it is better. It depends how much you want a better operating system, but the screen is considerably worse on here, and it is a lot smaller. So, well, not a lot smaller, but that tiny bit of real estate, bigness does make a huge difference between the Pixel 1 and the Pixel 2. And this, you can't find it. So if you find it secondhand, obviously go for it. But anyway, I digress. Now, the Miyoo Mini is, for me, I said that the Retroid is now the GOAT, like the greatest of all time retro handheld gaming devices. This is price to performance to what it can do is good, but it's still a little bit expensive for a lot of people. So the Miyoo Mini for a lot of people is the GOAT. It's definitely the GOAT of mini handhelds, that's for sure. But I do think the Pixel might be an option for a lot of people out there. This with Onion OS, it's quite expensive. It's $110 on LITNXT with shipping included. I think that might be including a Surwish card. It's got a retro jog wheel for the volume. There's just so much going for this thing. I do still think it is the GOAT, but this new Pixel 2 rivals it in many ways, and we're going to get into that. So the first thing is just that it's metal. You have a small metal Game Boy. Let's quickly compare it to the Game Boy quickly, because that was my thumbnail, my clickbaity thumbnail. Look at that. It really is. When you put it like that, you're like, okay, it's micro. But I'm just going to classify it as a mini, because if you put the Nano over this, good grief, that is small. Yeah, so, and it's now a metal Game Boy, which is cool. I looked at a shell for a DMG as a mod, and the shell is over $100 just for a shell, and I want to do a mod. And so if I do a metal mod with a LCD screen and all that, it's going to cost me like almost $200 to mod this old DMG that's, I don't like the red, and it doesn't have a battery door, so I want to mod this and put an LCD on it. Yeah, and it's going to cost me. I think a lot of people will enjoy this form factor. I think it was my daughter who said to me, oh, that's a terrible looking device. So I was like, I love this thing. I think it's one of the nicest looking handhelds I've received. So let's talk about aesthetics. It has the ribbing at the back. which is lovely. Feels very grippy. It has these slightly lippy shoulder buttons, gives you a little bit of lip. It has this lovely, so design is good when they carry through the look. So here you've got those little rounded lines. You've got the rounded lines here for the speaker grill. And then here they've just done this little design here, which I like. It's got a vibe, and we're going to get into it. But this thing can play a bit of music, and we're going to talk about that towards the end of the video. And the design, what they've done is these edges are sort of hardish edge, like sharp edges, but not sharp in terms of like it feels uncomfortable. So they've chamfered the edge like that, and it's finished off very, very nicely. If you run your finger over here, you can feel that metal a bit, but you've really got to push your finger in there. Here it's been chamfered off nicely. Very well designed, and then it's got the screws showing, I think, on purpose for like an industrial look. Now, what I would like to do with this is I would like to, and you'll find out later in the video why, I want to create a cover. I found a cover on Maker World. I want to 3D print it. I want to delete sections here for the buttons so that I can still have access to them for the controls for the music. And where I can do that is PCBWay. And the 3D prints that I've done with them are exceptional quality. The buttons I made for my RGB20SX just looked professional. They looked like they were injection molded, and those were 3D printed because of the way they polish it. Now, if you do a project and you want to do something more in-depth, like you want to do a custom PCB, they can manufacture that PCB for you. If you want to do a CNC milled housing for something, they can do your CNC milling for you, and their help service is very good. So if you reach out to them, they will be willing to help you kind of get started, figure things out, you know, what material to use. They will advise you. So go to their website, check out PCBWay. They're celebrating their 11th birthday, and you can win millions. Sorry, no, not millions. Just go check out their website. They have a competition and you can go win some stuff. So performance, the RK3326 chipset is in here, the 26S or something. That just means that you're going to get like kind of everything like the H700 chipset, very similar actually. You're going to get everything up to PlayStation 1 playing fine, and then your 3D systems are going to struggle. You can get a little bit of a Nintendo DS going on here. PSP is going to struggle. You're going to get a little bit of PSP. So that sort of thing. It's not incredibly powerful, but for your Game Boy, for your NES, all that sort of thing, this thing is absolutely ideal. And like I say, it will play PS1, and I think, you know, if you set your mindset there and everything else is a bonus, you're really going to enjoy this thing. And on the performance side, you know, I saw a few little graphical issues, but the screen was pretty smooth, so there's no sort of syncing issues. The audio's not crackling. I found someone said in the comments of a post that, you know, aren't you unhappy with the audio? I'm finding the audio coming out here is pretty good, and I think it's because it's tuned quite well, the RetroArch on here. Oh, and this will also play Pico 8, which I think is a cool thing, but they have loaded it with Pico 8 games, and I just recommend go to the Pico 8 website, select Lawful, go buy the console. It's a few dollars, just so that you know you've paid for it, because it is a paid thing, and there are people developing games for this thing. So you get games free within the system, but you do need to pay for the console. So just go do that. So, and Pico 8 does run as Splore on here. So yeah, just go pay for it. So comparing these two, and actually looking at it now, I noticed that the color saturation is difficult, actually not translating very well on my camera, but the saturation is better on here. This is slightly desaturated, but the screen on the V1 is visibly lower resolution, which again isn't showing up very well on the screen now, but it's visibly worse on here on the V1. We've got a slightly bigger battery here, not a proper sleep mode on here, so it doesn't make a huge difference. This is the V2 is only 7 grams heavier, and it is considerably bigger, so that's a huge plus. This has got clackety buttons, even the Dpad, and the action buttons, whereas Dpad, action buttons, it's noticeably quieter on here with the buttons. But a huge thing is this has no MIUI support, which kind of sucks balls. Like if you look here, like if you use Emulation Station here, you're getting a RetroArch menu here, you're getting this lovely in-game menu here with MIUI, and then you get the very simple menu with MIUI. Whereas here, if you're into minimalism, a lot of us have gotten used to Emulation Station, but it is like, it's not super user-friendly for newbies. So MinUI is far better on a system like this. And then this thing also has a personality problem. So this, you can choose between Emulation Station and the IUX, I think it is. Now, I can't decide which is better. We are more familiar with Emulation Station. The regular fans of this scene, the regular viewers of this channel, you will obviously prefer Emulation Station, but I'm not convinced that new people, like your friends and that, will not perhaps prefer the IUX, just because it has a very sort of like open up a menu, do things. The only problem is some of these menus require you to press a back button to go out, but then, for instance, here I need to press start to go out. So little things like that are kind of weird. Neither of these front ends, Emulation Station or the IUX, have a press and hold power down function. So if you press and hold the power button, it doesn't do anything. It'll just go into sleep mode. Well, its version of sleep. So you need to go in here, you need to go to power and power it down, which again, it's not a very user-friendly thing. And you can choose which launcher you want, whether you want Emulation Station or ES. So you go into settings, and you go to launcher. You choose which launcher you want, and then you go out of the menu, and it will, when you shut down, it'll automatically open to that particular front end. But the sort of saving grace is that the menu button does work. It is a RetroArch shortcut. Whether you're in Emulation Station or whether you're in IUX within a game, this menu button will open the RetroArch menu. So once you get used to that workflow, it is nice that it does that, because like, for instance, a PowerKD, they'll have a menu button, but the operating system doesn't do anything with it. So there's regular PowerKDs where there's a button that just has no purpose. And then when populating this with games and when I was putting music on, plugging this in both in IUX and in Emulation Station, when I plugged in to my laptop, it gave me the option, would you like to enable storage mode? Press A and it'll enable storage mode. Suddenly I can see the drive on my computer. And that is also just in this scene, not always a given that the device is going to be able to do just a simple task like that. Custom firmware. Now I found a website, a community made website. I think it's called gkdpixel.com or gkdpixelversion2.com or something. I'll put the link in my description. But they give you so many options, like mods for it, things that you can buy on Etsy for it, like grips and all that sort of thing. As soon as another operating system is available, they will update that website. So currently there's Plum OS, which is more towards the Asian market. And then there is Rogue OS, which is simply just a modified stock operating system. I was busy setting it up. I haven't had a chance to set it up, but it fixes a whole lot of things, and I'll put their list of fixes on the screen now. Now, I usually make a big deal of this, but I've noticed that not everyone hates this. So it doesn't have Wi-Fi, it doesn't have Bluetooth, and you have to use a dongle. Now, I have a dongle, as many of you know, and it didn't work. So I'm not sure why my particular one didn't work. I saw other reviewers did get their dongle working on screen, on camera, and they managed to do things like retro achievements and update their artwork through scraping. Now, obviously, retro achievements, you don't want to play with the dongle for retro achievements. So retro achievements, in effect, is not available on this handheld, but scraping artwork is if you have a dongle. So people without dongles cannot do this. So if you don't have a dongle, unfortunately you can't do this. So go get a dongle. It's also missing HDMI output, which sucks. And you'll see in my little D-pad test that I've devised that it's a pretty good little D-pad. Obviously it's tiny, so your grip for Street Fighter is quite difficult, but pretty good D-pad. Very nice direct controls on this. The action buttons have quite a lot of travel, so like sort of a retro vibe, a little bit more travel than what I would like, but the feeling of them is very good. The D-pad, as I said, feels really good. The thing that I feel is a little bit sort of funny on here is these shoulder buttons. So, I think they've tried to make it for gameplay. It's really nice, but they are very easy to press. They've made it too easy to press. That's my point. You see, this shoulder button is actually recessed. So the shoulder button is within the confines of here, and quite a strong digital press, which is quite difficult to press. And when we talk about music, you'll understand why I found this to be a little bit of an irritating thing on the handheld. A little shake test for you. Very good. Bit of crotch time for you. Very good. Quick little weight comparison. We've got 113 grams on this And compared to what I think is the main competitor, not even 10 grams heavier for a metal handle. That's not bad. It's not a bad payoff. The audio frequency spectrum of this is broader, of the GKD. It's got a better audio spectrum. This has got a front-firing speaker, which just wins every day of the week. It's far more sparkly, which also, if you're in a room with other people, the higher frequencies reach you without bothering everyone else, whereas lower frequencies are going to bother other people, and this is downward facing, which is going to bother other people. So this definitely wins in terms of practicality. This wins in terms of audio quality. While we have here, let's compare this now, because the Miyoo Mini is considerably bigger. That is going to play a role for some people. Some people want that extra size. Now, in terms of button layouts, we do have bigger buttons on the Miyoo Mini. The GKD Pixel 2 is not much narrower. So what the GKD did is it is shorter this way. And so you'll see the screen is a bit smaller, and they've just cut the chin off. So it's a lot less practical to hold. But apart from all of that, you are going to make a lot of compromises for having a device this small, but it is really nice having it metal. It's going to make it a very nice everyday carry. Whereas this, the Miyoo Mini, as lovely as it is not the best built handheld in the world. What made the Miyoo Mini the GOAT for me was the operating system. Now, we haven't had Garlic OS on anything else, I don't think. I wish they would put Garlic OS on other things, because just picking this up and using it, it is so nice to use. It's an auto resume. When you switch it on, it starts with the last game you were playing, immediately reminded me, oh yes, I was playing Darkwing Duck on here. And so I immediately get into that. And it has that game switcher, so between when you press this button, it closes the game and then makes a screenshot of where you were last, and you can switch between the games that you're busy playing. That is a really cool feature. All of that is what I want out of a handheld. Why can't we get that? The closest thing we have, NBINIX operating system, is getting close to that on the H700 chipset. If you are looking for something that's just really easy to use, I do still think that the Miyoo Mini is the way to go. I don't think we're ever going to get to the level of Garlic OS on the GKD Mini. I don't think there's enough interest from the developers on this device. If Sean Inman can put, I know he said something, there's a reason why he's not doing MIUI for this, but it really would be nice. It would make this at the same level as the Miyoo Mini, in my opinion. Now, the battery indicator is weird, because they did even mention it in the manual. If the battery reader is not correct, just charge the device fully and it should come right. I think I need to open this up and unplug the battery, which is just an absolute mission to get to 100%. I can't get it further than 95%. That is what it reads, which is a real pain in the neck. It could also mean that the battery is faulty, which I really hope that isn't the case. In general, I find battery management on this handheld with this current operating system lackluster. It's not great. And that brings me to my next thing, music playing. Battery life sucks when you play music, because I think the battery power down feature is even worse in music, and you can't power it down while you are playing music like you can with your phone. And so you have to leave it on. The screen has to stay on. And I know with Rogue OS, they fixed that where the screen at least switches off while you are using the GMU music player. Now let's quickly talk about this GMU music player, because I've given it a hard time in the past. And you know, sometimes when you circle back around to something enough, suddenly it just becomes normal. And so I want to quickly just bust a few myths and explain why it was a mystery to me. Now, I don't know if this never happened in the past, or if with my wonderful brain I just kind of pressed A and bypassed the instructions. It opens with instructions and tells you how to use the system, and I've always gone, this is bullshit, I hate this. In my defense, a lot of handhelds, if you press the start and select exit feature, it doesn't exit, and then I have to restart the device. That is a big no-no. And so some handhelds that have this GMU music player, you can't exit the music player, which is, then what the F is the point? Okay, so there's that. Anyway, okay, so there's instructions. Now you press A to go okay. Now, It is a little bit counterintuitive, but once you get to use it, you understand why they've made it like that. You know, there's a lot of buttons on here. Okay, so we've got start to cycle through the different pages. We've got the file browser. There we go. That is the file browser, and you can go between directories. There's my one album. Okay, back doesn't work, so it's a bit counterintuitive, but then I have to go up again. And then when I'm here, if you don't see the thing that you're looking for here, you press select. You can insert a file, new playlist from directory, about, and I can look at the about as well. Or here I can add directory or play file. So now I've just added my songs manually. There's a list of the songs. There's certain things you can do, like you can make playlists, you can add songs to playlists, so you can get into it. And all you need to do to understand all of that is to know that when you press select, it gives you more menu options in each page. And so start is to page through. When you're here, it actually says here toggle text. Press B here and it'll toggle between text on and off. I think A will change. Cover art analyzer, switch that off. I just like the cover art like that. So while it is still quirky, like I added my Hyam album, the new I Quit album on here, and I can't seem to get the artwork working, so I need to now Google and figure out why. Like I changed it to 500 by 500 pixels and it still doesn't work, so I'm gonna go figure out. I might have just not added the files properly or something. But yeah, so it is still a bit fiddly, but to get the general thing working is quite nice. Now, the next thing is to plug in my headphones. These Milo Xyloto FLAC files that I have, I don't know what I did when I encoded them, but they are not great. But when I listened to that Hyam album, I was like confused as to why the audio was so good. And so this DAC, whatever it is, you know, I'm sure they didn't put a special DAC in here. Yeah, so this Milo Xyloto is a little bit muffled and a little bit distorted, but the I Quit from Hyam was crystal clear, like the bass response was quite good. I really had good audio coming out of this DAC, so I don't know what they've done here, but there's a decent little DAC in here. If you buy this and the audio isn't as great as I'm experiencing, unfortunately I did test the USB-C to audio and it doesn't work. I know some people did that with the V90S, the new Power Kitty, and it does work. So that's something that I'll be testing more in the future, because I discovered that you can get little USB-C to 3.5mm DACs. There's one from Fio, there's a cheaper one from Ugreen, and that will implement a tiny little digital to audio converter with high quality audio that you can use for your retro devices. So if you know of a retro device that you own that runs audio via the USB-C, then you can just use one of those DACs and get pretty damn good audio. So for instance, the little V90 from Power Kitty, I could have mentioned in my video that it's a secret audio player, like a really cool retro audio player. And now that I've wrapped my head around the GMU music player, it really does open a few doors for people that enjoy music. And to circle back, like this handheld now, like I mentioned, I really am enjoying this as a music player. I'm really enjoying putting those FLAC files on here. I'm getting into my music lately, like physical music media, and to rip those CDs or whatever to FLAC, or to buy FLAC files from the artist's website and to put it onto something like this is really cool. However, the thing I mentioned about the shoulder buttons, skip in the GMU user interface is R1 and L1. And so in your pocket, this is an issue. And so I found a little 3D file. I'm going to edit it, make it available. That will make this a lot harder to press in your pocket, because like I said, you need to leave this on when you are using it for music. It's going to power your handheld down quite a bit, but it is going to make it quite a fun little music player. And on top of that, it's metal. It's great for that sort of everyday carry experience. It's got this nice, you know, chamfered edge. It's got the good design, even though my daughter thinks it's ugly. I mean, it definitely rivals the Miyoo Mini in terms of design. I think they're both beautiful handhelds. I love my custom one that I did with LITNXT, but it definitely rivals it in terms of looks. Obviously, ergonomics are better on the Miyoo Mini, but that's because it has a bigger chin and it is bigger. But I think if you are not prone to getting irritated with small devices, this might be the perfect everyday carry for you, especially since it's quite a cool little music player. So go check it out, the GKD Pixel 2.